I've led special operations teams for 15 years. I've run missions in deserts, jungles, mountains, and cities where the locals didn't even know we were there. I've extracted hostages, eliminated high-value targets, and gathered intelligence that prevented wars before they started. But I've only participated in one mission that officially never happened. One operation where 6 men walked into a hostile nation, accomplished the impossible, and walked out leaving behind nothing but questions and ghost stories. The mission was called Operation Phantom Echo. And if you ask any government official about it, they'll tell you it doesn't exist. They're lying. This is what really happened. My name is Commander Jake Mitchell, and I lead Neptune Team, a maritime special operations unit attached to the Atlantic Naval Command. We're not SEALs, not officially, but we do the same job: direct action, special reconnaissance, counterterrorism. The kind of work that happens in the shadows and stays there. My team was 8 operators, handpicked over 3 years of deployments. Each one had skills that made them irreplaceable. Lieutenant Marcus Doc Rivera, our medic, former emergency room surgeon who got bored saving lives in hospitals and decided to do it in war zones instead. Calm under pressure, steady hands, dark sense of humor. Chief Petty Officer David Scope Chun, sniper, forward observer. The guy who could shoot a target at 1,200 meters and then call in an airstrike on the building next door without breaking a sweat. Quiet, precise, lethal. Petty Officer First Class James Breacher Thompson, explosives expert, the man who could open any door, crack any safe, or bring down any structure. Built like a linebacker, gentle as a puppy until you gave him detonators. Petty Officer Second Class Alex Wire Kowalski, communications and cyber warfare specialist. Could hack enemy networks, intercept signals, or coordinate tactical operations across 3 time zones. Former MIT dropout who decided college wasn't exciting enough. Petty Officer Second Class Miguel Shark Santos, combat diver, underwater demolitions, the guy who could hold his breath for 4 minutes and navigate by touch in zero visibility water. Grew up on the coast, joined the Navy at 17, never looked back. Petty Officer Third Class Ryan Ghost Williams, our youngest operator, reconnaissance specialist, the guy who could move through hostile territory without leaving footprints. Earned his call sign during training when he infiltrated an instructor's office and left a note on his desk without anyone seeing him enter or leave. And Senior Chief Petty Officer Tom Hammer Anderson, my second in command, the guy who'd been doing this longer than anyone else on the team. If I went down, Hammer would bring everyone home. That was the deal, the unspoken promise we all lived by. We were good, maybe the best maritime unit in the Atlantic Command, which is probably why they chose us for a mission that was designed to fail. The call came at 0300 on a Tuesday in November. Encrypted communication, highest classification level. Report immediately to secure facility for mission briefing. No details, no context, just orders. We assembled in a SCEF, sensitive compartmented information facility, at the naval base. Waiting for us was a civilian I'd never seen before. Mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of face that revealed nothing. He introduced himself as Mr. Gray. Not his real name, obviously. Gentlemen, he said, pulling up a map on the secure screen. What I'm about to tell you is classified at a level above top secret. This mission does not exist in any official record. If you're captured, we will deny your existence. If you're killed, there will be no ceremony, no flag, no recognition. Are we clear? Crystal, I said. What's the mission? The map showed a country I recognized, Valkoria, a small nation on the Adriatic coast, formerly part of Yugoslavia, now an independent state run by an authoritarian government with close ties to hostile foreign powers. Not officially an enemy, but not friendly either. 2 weeks ago, Gray continued, Valkorian forces captured an Allied intelligence asset, a signals intelligence operator who was gathering information on Valkorian military communications. The operative is being held in a government facility outside the capital city of Sovarna. You want us to extract them, Hammer said. We want you to try, Gray corrected. The facility is a converted Cold War bunker, heavily guarded, located in the middle of a restricted military zone. Every extraction plan we've modeled has a success probability below 15%. Doc looked up from the briefing materials. 15%? That's a suicide mission. It's a high-risk mission, Gray said smoothly. But the intelligence this operative possesses is critical. If Valkoria turns them over to their foreign allies, we lose significant strategic advantage in the region. I studied the facility layout. 3 levels underground, single entrance, guard rotations every 4 hours, surveillance systems throughout. It was a fortress. Mr. Gray, I said carefully. With respect, this looks like a mission designed to fail. Why send a team if the probability is that low? Something flickered in Gray's eyes. Because, Commander, sometimes we need to be seen trying, even if we fail. And there it was. Political theater. Someone in the government needed to show they'd attempted a rescue, regardless of whether it actually succeeded. My team was being sent to die, so politicians could say they'd tried. What's the timeline? I asked. You insert in 72 hours. The operative has maybe a week before they're transferred to a location we can't reach. This is your window. I looked at my team. Every one of them understood what we were being asked to do. Every one of them was ready to do it anyway, because that's who we were. We'll need complete operational autonomy, I said. No real-time oversight, no approval requirements for tactical decisions. We run this our way, or we don't run it at all. Gray nodded. Agreed. You'll have full authority. Just bring back the asset. And if we can't, then at least bring back yourselves. We had 60 hours to plan an operation that had a 15% success probability. Most teams would have gone with the conventional approach: stealth insertion, breach the facility, locate the asset, fight their way out. That plan would get us all killed. So we didn't use it. All right, I said, gathering the team in our secure planning room. We're going to do something different. Wire, I need you to hack Valkorian government systems. Not their military networks. That'll trigger alarms. I need you in their civilian infrastructure. Power grid, water supply, municipal services. Wire looked confused. Boss, how does the water supply help us break into a military bunker? Because we're not going to break in. We're going to walk in. I pulled up the facility schematic. This bunker was built in the Cold War. It needs power, water, and ventilation. All of those systems connect to municipal infrastructure, and all of them require maintenance. Scope started to smile. You want to pose as maintenance workers? Exactly. Breacher, can you create a problem with their water supply that would require immediate repair? Breacher studied the schematics. I can introduce a contaminant into the main water line serving that sector. Nothing dangerous, just enough to trigger water quality alerts. They'd have to shut down and flush the system, which would require maintenance crews to access the facility, Doc said, catching on. But they'll verify credentials, background checks, which is where Wire comes in, I said. You create identities for us in the Valkorian municipal database. Maintenance workers with proper credentials, work histories, the whole package. Make us invisible by making us legitimate. Ghost raised his hand. Boss, even if we get inside as maintenance workers, we still have to locate the asset, extract them, and get out. The guards aren't going to let us just walk out with a prisoner. No, I agreed. They won't. Which is why we're going to need a distraction. A big one. We inserted into Valkoria via commercial flight. 6 maintenance workers with proper documentation, traveling separately, meeting in Sovarna to form a work crew. Wire's forgeries were flawless. We passed through customs without a single question. The civilian infrastructure hack was elegant. Breacher had designed a slow-release contaminant that would trigger water quality sensors but dissipate harmlessly within hours. By the time Valkorian authorities detected the problem, We'd already registered our maintenance crew to handle the emergency repair. The call came on our second day in country. The military facility needed immediate water system maintenance. Could our crew respond? We could. The facility was everything the briefing had described. Cold War bunker, reinforced concrete, minimal windows, heavy security. But we weren't arriving as threats. We were arriving as solutions to their problem. The guard at the checkpoint barely glanced at our credentials. Water contamination? Yes, sir, I said in fluent Serbo-Croatian, one of several languages spoken in Valcoria. We need to access the main filtration system, flush the lines, run quality tests. Probably 4 to 6 hours. He waved us through. Just like that, we were inside. The facility had 3 levels. Maintenance systems on level 1, administrative offices on level 2, detention and interrogation on level 3. Our target was somewhere on level 3. We set up our equipment in the filtration room on level 1. To anyone watching, we looked exactly like maintenance workers doing routine repairs. But while Breacher and Doc actually worked on the water system, no point arousing suspicion by not doing the job. The rest of us prepared for the next phase. Wire, I said quietly. How long until you can access their internal security network? Already in, he said, working on a tablet that looked like standard diagnostic equipment. I'm cycling through camera feeds now. Level 3 has 6 detention cells. 5 are empty. 1 has our asset. Guards. 4 on level 3. Another 6 on level 2. 8 on level 1 and perimeter. Standard rotation every 4 hours. Time until next rotation? 90 minutes. That was our window. 90 minutes to get to level 3, extract the asset, and get back to level 1 before anyone noticed we'd left our maintenance station. Scope. Ghost, you're with me, I said. Hammer, you maintain overwatch here. If anything goes wrong, you extract the team. That's an order. Hammer nodded. He didn't like it, but he understood it. Somebody had to survive to report what happened. Moving through the facility required discipline and precision. We couldn't just walk into restricted areas. Even maintenance workers had limits. But Wire had done his homework. He'd identified a ventilation shaft that ran from level 1 to level 3, used for air circulation and large enough for a person to navigate. Scope stayed on level 1 as our spotter, watching guard movements through Wire's camera feeds and feeding us real-time updates via concealed earpieces. Ghost and I entered the ventilation system and began the descent. The shaft was dark, cramped, and uncomfortably warm. We moved in complete silence, using night vision to navigate. 3 minutes to reach level 3. 4 minutes to position ourselves above the detention area. Through the ventilation grate, I could see the cell. And inside, I could see our asset. She was younger than I expected. Mid-20s, dark hair, bruised face, sitting on a metal bench with the kind of posture that comes from extensive training. She'd been interrogated. I could see the signs, but she hadn't broken. 2 guards stood outside her cell. Armed, alert, professional. Wire. I whispered into my mic. I need a distraction. Something that pulls those guards away for 60 seconds. On it, Wire said. Stand by. 30 seconds later, an alarm started blaring on level 2. Fire suppression system malfunction. Not a real emergency, just a manufactured one. Wire triggering sensors remotely. But it was enough. Both guards moved toward the stairs, responding to protocol. The cell was unguarded. Ghost and I dropped from the ventilation shaft. I moved to the cell door while Ghost kept watch. The lock was electronic, sophisticated, but I had a bypass device Wire had built specifically for Valkorian security systems. 20 seconds. The lock disengaged. I opened the door. The asset looked up, startled. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison? I said quietly. She nodded, too surprised to speak. We're here to extract you. Can you move? I can move, she said, standing. Her voice was rough, but determined. Who sent you? Someone who thinks you're worth saving. Let's go. We moved back to the ventilation shaft, Morrison between us. Ghost went first, then Morrison, then me. We were halfway back to level 1 when Wire's voice came through my earpiece, urgent and tight. "Boss, we have a problem. Guard rotation just moved up. They're doing a surprise inspection of detention areas. They'll find her cell empty in 90 seconds. Can you buy us time? I can try to loop the camera feeds, but if they physically check the cell, do it. We need 3 minutes to get back to the maintenance area." We moved faster. Morrison kept up, moving through the shaft with the kind of controlled urgency that told me she had tactical training. Good. We were going to need it. We reached level 1 with seconds to spare, dropping back into the filtration room where Hammer, Doc, and Breacher were waiting. "Situation?" Hammer asked. "They're going to know she's gone in about 30 seconds, I said, "which means we need to be gone in 31. The original plan was to walk out as maintenance workers," Doc said. "That's not going to work now." "No," I agreed. So we go to Plan B. Plan B was simple, brutal, and almost certainly going to work. "Breacher," I said, "remember that big distraction I mentioned?" He grinned. "The water system?" "The entire water system. How much damage can you do with what we brought?" "Enough to flood this entire sector and trigger every emergency protocol they have. But we're talking serious infrastructure damage." "Do it. We need chaos, and we need it now." Breacher went to work. He'd hidden small explosive charges in our equipment, disguised as diagnostic tools. Now he placed them at strategic points in the water system: joints, pressure regulators, main supply lines. "This is going to be loud," he warned. "That's the idea," I said. "Wire, can you trigger fire alarms throughout the facility? Make them think there's multiple emergencies." "Already queued up. Just say when." 30 seconds after Breacher's charges blow. I want every guard in this facility responding to fires and floods instead of looking for us. Morrison watched this with the kind of expression that said she was recalculating everything she thought she knew about rescue operations. "This is your plan? Blow up the water system and cause chaos. Sometimes the best way to hide is to make sure everyone's looking somewhere else," I said. "Scope, Ghost, how's our exit route?" "Clear for now," Scope reported. "But once those charges blow, we're going to have the entire Valkorian military converging on this location. Then we better move fast." "Everyone ready?" 7 nods. Morrison made it 8. Breacher lighted up. The explosions were massive. The water system ruptured in 4 places simultaneously, sending thousands of gallons of water flooding through the facility. Alarms started blaring. 30 seconds later, Wire triggered fire suppression systems on all 3 levels. Chaos. Beautiful, perfect chaos. We moved during the confusion, ditching our maintenance gear and blending into the evacuation. Guards were shouting, running toward emergency stations, trying to figure out what was happening. Nobody was looking for a group of people in the crowd. They were looking for the source of the disaster. We reached the perimeter as Valkorian military units started arriving. Emergency vehicles, fire trucks, soldiers establishing cordons. But they were setting up to contain a disaster, not catch infiltrators. We walked past them. 8 people in civilian clothes, looking confused and scared like everyone else evacuating the area. Just another group of workers fleeing a catastrophe. Nobody stopped us. The exfiltration plan had always been the weakest part of the operation. We'd inserted as civilians on commercial flights, but extracting with a rescued intelligence operative required something more sophisticated. Our extraction point was a private airfield 40 kilometers outside Sovarna, controlled by a contact Wire had established through intelligence channels. The airfield owner asked no questions as long as the money was good, and our budget for this operation had been essentially unlimited. The problem was getting there. Valkorian authorities would realize Morrison was missing within hours. They'd lock down the borders, ground all flights, and start searching. We needed to be out of the country before that happened. We split into 3 groups, taking separate routes to the airfield. Morrison came with me and Hammer, traveling in a civilian vehicle Wire had arranged. The others took different cars, different roads, different timing. We were 15 kilometers from the airfield when the roadblocks went up. Checkpoint ahead, Hammer said from the driver's seat. 3 police vehicles, armed officers. I looked at Morrison. Can you act drunk? She blinked. What? Wedding party. We're coming from a wedding. You had too much wine. We're driving you home. Can you sell it? Understanding dawned in her eyes. I can sell it. Hammer loosened his tie, mussed his hair. I did the same. Morrison slumped in the back seat, playing the part of someone who'd overindulged. We pulled up to the checkpoint. A Valkorian police officer approached, flashlight in hand. Documents, he said in Serbo-Croatian. I handed over our forged identification, still valid, still legitimate as far as their systems knew. Is there a problem, officer? Routine security check. Where are you coming from? Wedding in the city. My cousin got married. This one? I gestured to Morrison. She doesn't handle wine well. The officer studied our documents, then shone his light into the back seat. Morrison groaned convincingly, mumbled something incoherent, and turned away from the light. The officer handed back our papers. Go, but get her home safely. Yes, officer. Thank you. We drove through the checkpoint. 2 kilometers later, Morrison sat up, perfectly sober. Not bad, Hammer said. Theater minor in college, she said. Turns out it's useful in intelligence work. We reached the airfield at 2,300 hours. The others were already there. 6 operators who'd made it through their own checkpoints, their own challenges. Everyone was accounted for. The aircraft was waiting. A small cargo plane, civilian registry, pilot who didn't ask questions. We loaded up and took off 18 minutes later. As we climbed into international airspace, I watched the lights of Valkoria disappear below us. Somewhere down there, authorities were tearing apart the bunker, trying to figure out what happened. Investigating the water system sabotage. Searching for Lieutenant Sarah Morrison. They wouldn't find her. She was already gone, lifted by a ghost team that officially didn't exist. We landed at a military base in Allied territory 12 hours later. Mr. Gray was waiting in the debriefing room, along with several other officials I didn't recognize. Commander Mitchell, Gray said, you were given a mission with a 15% success probability. You returned with the asset, all team members accounted for, and 0 casualties. How? We didn't follow your plan, I said simply. Your plan was designed for conventional special operations. We used an unconventional approach. You flooded a military facility and caused an international incident. We created a tactical distraction that allowed us to extract the asset while Valkorian forces were focused elsewhere. The flooding was unfortunate but effective. One of the other officials, a woman with admiral stars, leaned forward. Commander, do you understand the diplomatic complications you've created? Valkoria is demanding explanations. They're accusing allied nations of sabotage. With respect, ma'am, they can accuse all they want. They have no proof we were ever there. We used forged identities, left no physical evidence, and exfiltrated before they could establish a timeline. As far as Valkoria knows, they had a water system malfunction and a prisoner escape. They can't prove foreign involvement. Gray almost smiled. The commander has a point. Valkorian authorities are investigating infrastructure failure, not international operations. The admiral nodded slowly. Lieutenant Morrison's intelligence is already proving valuable. The information she gathered has given us significant strategic advantage in the region. Then the mission was successful, I said. The mission, Gray corrected, officially never happened. But yes, Commander, it was successful. He stood, preparing to leave. Your team performed exceptionally. That will be noted in your classified service records. But understand, you will never receive public recognition for this. There will be no medals, no ceremonies, no acknowledgement. We don't do this for recognition, I said. We do it because it needs to be done. Gray studied me for a long moment. That's why you were chosen. Dismissed, Commander. The team debriefed separately over the next week. Standard procedure after a classified operation: isolate the participants, verify stories, ensure operational security. But eventually, we were cleared to return to normal duties. Normal being a relative term for a special operations unit. I found Morrison 3 days later in the base medical facility. She was being evaluated by doctors, cleared for return to active intelligence duty. She saw me and waved me over. "Commander Mitchell," she said, "I never got to properly thank you." "You don't need to thank me, Lieutenant. We were doing our job. Your job was extracting an intelligence asset. You risked your entire team for someone you'd never met. That's more than just a job." I sat down in the chair next to her bed. "Can I ask you something? The intelligence you gathered, was it worth it? Worth being captured, interrogated, worth the risk of the extraction?" She was quiet for a moment. "I identified a network that was planning attacks against Allied targets in 3 countries. The information I gathered will save lives. So yes, Commander, it was worth it. Then we did the right thing. You did more than that. You gave me a second chance. Most intelligence operatives who get captured don't get rescued. We're considered acceptable losses." Her voice got quieter. "I thought I was going to die in that cell. Or worse, get transferred to somewhere I'd never come back from. But you came anyway. We don't leave people behind," I said. "That's the promise. Whether it's a teammate or an intelligence operative or anyone else who serves. We don't leave people behind." Morrison smiled. "Your team must trust you completely. We trust each other. That's how this works." 6 months later, I was running a training exercise with Neptune team when Hammer pulled me aside. "Boss, you hear the news from Valkyria?" "What news?" "They're still investigating what happened at that bunker. Officially, they're calling it a catastrophic infrastructure failure combined with prisoner escape. But there are rumors." "What kind of rumors?" "Ghost stories. Locals in Sovarna talking about phantom maintenance workers who appeared during the disaster and then vanished. Some people think it was foreign operatives. Others think it was some kind of inside job. There's even a theory that Morrison had superhuman abilities and escaped on her own." I smiled. "Let them theorize. As long as they don't know the truth." "That's the thing, boss. They'll never know the truth. We were too clean, too professional. We left nothing but questions. That was the point. The best operations are the ones that leave no trace, no evidence, nothing but uncertainty and speculation." Wire approached with his tablet. "Boss, you need to see this. Valkyrian Intelligence Services just published an internal report. Someone leaked it to Allied intelligence." He showed me the screen. The report detailed the bunker incident, analyzed potential causes, and concluded that while foreign involvement couldn't be ruled out, there was insufficient evidence to prove it. The case was being closed as an infrastructure failure. "They're giving up," Wire said. "They're accepting the reality that they can't prove what happened." I corrected. "Which means we did our job right." Doc joined us, medical bag over his shoulder. "Heard from Morrison. She's back in the field, running operations in Eastern Europe. Says she's using some of the tactics we employed during the extraction, unconventional approaches, creating chaos as cover." "Good," I said. "That's what we taught her." Ghost materialized from wherever he'd been. True to his call sign, you never saw him coming. "Boss, training exercise is ready. You want us to run the scenario." "What scenario?" "Hostage extraction from fortified facility." Seemed relevant. The team gathered around. 8 operators who'd accomplished the impossible and then went back to their regular duties like it was just another day at the office. "All right," I said. "Let's run it. But remember, conventional approaches are predictable. What's the unconventional solution?" Breacher grinned. "Blow something up and walk in during the chaos." "There you go. Let's see if the trainees can figure that out." We walked toward the training facility. Behind us, the sun was setting over the Atlantic, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Somewhere across that ocean, in a country that would never officially acknowledge what happened, there was a bunker with flood damage and a missing prisoner. And somewhere in the intelligence community, people were asking questions that would never be answered. That's the nature of ghost operations. They happen in the shadows and stay there. The operators who run them don't get parades or medals or recognition. But they get something better: the knowledge that they did what others couldn't, accomplished what others said was impossible, and brought home someone who deserved a second chance. Epilogue. 5 years later, I retired from active duty 3 years after the Valkyria operation. 20 years of service, countless missions, more memories than I care to count. Neptune team continued without me. Hammer took command, and from what I hear, they're still running operations that officially don't exist. Last month, I got a package in the mail. No return address, postmarked from somewhere in Europe. Inside was a photograph and a handwritten note. The photograph showed a woman in business attire standing in front of what looked like a university building. I recognized her immediately. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, now clearly several years older, smiling at the camera. The note read, "Commander Mitchell, I left intelligence work 2 years ago. Turns out getting captured and interrogated gives you a different perspective on risk. I'm teaching now, international relations and security studies, trying to train the next generation to be smarter than I was. But I still think about that night in Valkyria, about the team that came for me when everyone else had written me off, about the commander who figured out an unconventional solution to an impossible problem. I teach my students that sometimes the textbook answer isn't the right answer, that sometimes you have to think beyond conventional wisdom and find creative solutions to impossible challenges. I learned that from you. Thank you for giving me a second chance. I'm trying to use it well. Respectfully, Dr. Sarah Morrison." I put the photograph on my desk, next to the other mementos from my career. Awards I can't talk about, photographs from missions that don't exist, letters from people I saved who aren't supposed to acknowledge we ever met. That's the legacy of special operations. Not the glory or recognition, but the quiet knowledge that you made a difference in ways most people will never understand. Neptune team is still out there, running missions in the shadows, accomplishing the impossible. They don't do it for medals or fame. They do it because someone has to. Because there are people who need to be rescued, threats that need to be eliminated, and challenges that require unconventional solutions. The Valkyria operation taught me something important. The most effective operations aren't always the ones that follow the plan. Sometimes they're the ones that throw out the plan entirely and create something new. 15% probability of success. We turned that into 100% by refusing to accept the limitations others placed on us. That's what special operations is really about. Not superhuman abilities or impossible courage. Just ordinary people who refuse to accept that something can't be done, who find creative solutions to impossible problems, and who never, ever leave anyone behind. The mission officially never happened. The facility in Valkyria officially experienced an infrastructure failure. Lieutenant Morrison officially escaped on her own. But 8 operators know the truth. We know what we accomplished, what we risked, and what we proved. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes the quiet knowledge of a job well done is better than any medal, any recognition, any public acknowledgement. Because at the end of the day, we didn't do it for glory. We did it because a soldier needed help, and we had the skills to provide it. That's the mission. That's always been the mission. And somewhere out there, Neptune team is running another operation that officially doesn't exist, solving another impossible problem, proving once again that the best operators are the ones you never hear about. They're the ghosts, the phantoms, the ones who accomplish the impossible and then disappear into the shadows. And I couldn't be more proud to have been one of them. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Epic Recon Stories. Here we tell the missions that never made the headlines, the decisions made in silence, and the people who carried them. More stories are coming soon.